Welcome to the Christian Woman Leadership Podcast, where we hope to inspire you to embrace your God-given gifts, skills, and passions in order to lead with confidence. We want you to remember that you are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God, and you are fully loved by Him.
You have been designed on purpose by God with unique gifts and passions in order to love and lead those around you. I'm your host, Esther Littlefield, a pastor's wife, business owner, mom, and writer.
And I'm Esther's co-host, Holly Kane. I'm a wife, mom, and business owner. I also write at hollykane.org, where I focus on my passion for women's ministry.
Together, we chat about important issues that Christian women leaders face. In addition, we interview other women just like you who lead in various roles, from church to community to business. Through this podcast, we offer you encouragement, tools, and resources to help you on your leadership journey. We are so glad you're here with us. Hey friend, and welcome to episode 71 of the Christian Woman Leadership Podcast. If you are new here, welcome. I am so glad you have found our podcast and that you are here with us today. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button after you listen so that you can hear all of our future episodes and go back and check out some of the older ones too. And if you've been listening all along, I want to say once again, thank you. And thank you for all of you who have shared our podcast as well as left ratings and reviews. We truly appreciate it. Now, in today's episode, I am chatting with Stefanie Gass about her leadership journey. You're going to hear her share about how she went from being a top income earner in her network marketing company to having everything fall apart and where she went from there. You'll hear us chat about how that experience helped her to rediscover her faith and how her faith has played a key role in her life and her business ever since then. Plus, Stef has some wisdom for any of you who want to find clarity around your calling. She shares some of her personal leadership lessons that she has learned, some tips on managing her life as a mom, a wife, a business owner, and so much more. I think you will really enjoy this fun, inspiring conversation with Stefanie. Before we jump in, let me tell you a little bit about her. Stefanie Gass helps mompreneurs create passive income businesses that light them up. Fueled by Jesus, iced coffee, and toddler snuggles, Stef is both an exceptional mama and an extremely successful entrepreneur. Stef's call is empowering women to claim their best lives by working less and making more. Stef believes that when we let God's miracles light up our path, we will profit from our passions, live proactively, and design a life that fuels our soul. She believes we can actually have it all. Now let's go ahead and jump into our conversation with Stefanie. Hi, Stefanie. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm really happy to chat with you and hear more about your leadership journey and all the things that you are doing and that God is using you in right now. So could you just tell us a little bit about how you are currently leading in your life right now?
Yes. So what I'm currently doing right now is I run my podcast, and my entire mission right now, I think it's so cool because there's so many evolutions of where you're at, right?
Right.
But right this second, I help Christian mompreneurs, so mothers who are called to be entrepreneurs as well, kind of uncover what that calling is for them. And then I help them create a business through podcasting and then monetizing the podcast using online courses and sharing her message, whatever that message might be. So that's kind of where I sit today. I'm a mama and I drink too much coffee and I love Jesus. No.
Yes. That's awesome. I'm so excited to chat with you more and get into some of the ideas around finding your calling, because I think that's a big piece of what a lot of my listeners probably would love to hear more about. But let's just go back in time a little bit. I would love to find out how you got to where you are. So you haven't been doing this your whole life. So tell us what started you in leadership. Like, what was kind of your first leadership experience?
Sure. So growing up, my dad was the first one in his family to have money, right? He went to college. They grew up like poverty. They had like 17 kids in like 2-bedroom house, not really 17, but you guys know what I mean. And so the whole thing was you're going to college to get the degree. went to college, got a master's in accounting and finance because there's always a job in accounting and finance, right? And never knew entrepreneurship was even an option for me, which was fine. It was just me, didn't have a significant other. I rose in the corporate world from a very young age. I've had this, call to be a leader. I've always been good at work. I love work. It's just something that God has gifted me with. And so I went full force with that. I was the youngest financial controller in this global company by the age of 27, Germany, Spain, living from the BlackBerry. And I was a leader. I had, employees and all these things. And then God stepped in and redirected me. And I think it's so cool because each moment or each experience that we have, I think we're there on purpose so that we can learn and be prepared for the next thing and then the next thing. And so that was that first stepping stone of leadership. It was giving me the foundations that I needed probably to become an entrepreneur, which is ultimately where I ended up. So the next phase, the company shut down. No job. Within a couple months, I'm like, what am I going to do now? Should I go back to corporate? I know that it was divine intervention to give me the first taste of entrepreneurship. And that came from my mom getting into network marketing, believe it or not. I think so many entrepreneurs experience that, journey through network marketing. And so that's what happened for me 7 years ago. I watched the promo video with the girl on the pink flamingo in the pool, drinking the mimosa. She had money flying down all around her, and I'm like, well, I could do that. I can do that and have kids and work from home. So went into network marketing. I had never heard of it before and totally climbed that ladder. Within 2 years, top 1% of the company, the stage, the $50,000 bonus, the cars, the trips, and I made it, quote unquote, right? But that ended up becoming an idol for me. And I am an achiever. And so I got lost in money, recognition, rank advancing. Oh, we love Stefanie because of what she does. Love equals achievement. And it's just kind of a piece of my personality, but it ran away from me.
Yeah.
And I got lost in it. And, I went through, I think, a whole spiritual realignment, and I'm stubborn. I'm like, I'm just going to keep pushing at this. And God's like, but are you? Because hold on, I have bigger plans for you, girl. I had kind of fallen away from my spirituality. I was a full-blown workaholic. I was waking up at 5 to work, working at 10. Work had become the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Work was something I was idolizing. And I had gained 60 pounds. My kids, everyone was second on the list, really. And it's hard for me to share that because it makes me feel like I failed for a while. But it's important for me to share because we are all humans and we are all weak and we are also forgiven. And so no matter where you are in your journey, there's going to be a moment when you'll give into that weakness, or maybe you find yourself and you have this realization like, oh no, I'm idolizing something and now I failed and, God is mad at me. And it's like, listen, we're human beings and we are forgiven. Believe Jesus died to make sure that we are forgiven.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with sharing this now because I want you to see that nobody's perfect. And I went through that. And then the company started to crumble. My business did. People were leaving to the next best thing. And the money was gone. Within a year, it was cut into a third. I had to borrow money from my kids' savings account to pay the bills. And I'm left for the first time ever having failed, for the first time ever at anything. I had never failed at something before. And so that was like this huge reckoning to my soul of, well, who am I now? If I am not money, if I am not achievement, I'm worthless. Because I was idolizing money, and money will always let you down, right? Because it's just a thing. It's a means of exchange. It doesn't have any power. And there I sat eating my Doritos, watching Netflix, crying myself to sleep with a newborn baby in one arm, a 2.5-year-old in the other, going, maybe this isn't it. Maybe I'm created for something more, or maybe my worth comes from somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'd always been a Christian, but I had never had real relationship with God until this point. I had been saved at, 8 years old, but it's like I wasn't in relationship with God.
Right.
And so the first step at that point, this was about 3 years ago, was I've got it. Like, I need God back in my life. Like, I started to get back into church, get back into his word. I wrote on a piece of paper the one woman I wanted to be. I didn't know where the money was going to come from. I didn't know what the next step was. I didn't understand where he was leading me and why he took me here, because I felt all this pain of losing this business. But what I didn't understand is that I had to be reborn, and I had to feel all of that so that I could come back to God and know that he is what would ultimately sustain me and heal me and, bring me back to this greater call that he had for me. So it took a year of scripture and prayer, and he had to get rid of certain people that were in my life.
Yeah.
I had to let go of all of that piece of who I was. And I wrote on this paper who I wanted to be. So I said, I want to be, daughter of Christ, period. Like, my spirituality needs to come first. I don't want to control my how anymore. I'm tired of trying to control that. I'm giving it up. I want to be healthy and energetic. I want to work no more than 4 or 5 hours a day because I have little kids and they need me. I want to be here for them, and I don't want to put anything first. Work does not come first anymore. And I don't know how the money's going to come in, but I'm just going to trust. So I wrote all these things on this paper, and then I stared at the paper. I'm like, must be nice to be her. I'm like getting crumbs on the paper from my Doritos and chocolate. Anyway, what I did though is I did one thing every day that she would do. So I'd wake up and say, what would that girl do? She would probably start with the word, right? She would go to the gym. She would turn off her phone and play Legos with her kids today. What would she do? And I just started to practice what I wanted to become, or what I knew that God wanted me to become. Mm-hmm. And then over time, I actually became her. And it was it's the craziest realization looking back now, going, I had to go through all of those tests and all of that dark, hard stuff, because otherwise I wouldn't have, you go through the test for the testimony, right? You've heard that. But until you have God, it's not a testimony. It's just pain.
Yeah.
Now I have a testimony, and I have a way to impact people, and they hear my story and go, oh, I'm sitting there today. So now I have this powerful story that resonates with people, that I can help them through that with what I do. So it was a long journey, but I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah. Wow. So after that point, so you kind of go through this period of, you've stopped pretty much the network marketing business. Is that right? Yeah. Or stepped back? Yeah. And how did you then transition into your full entrepreneurship that you're in now?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the best part ever. It's because, you're sitting there going, what do I do with myself? Right? I'm in this weird phase of transition. And you're looking at God, and you're like, so I'm here. Like I said, I wasn't going to control anything. Where's your big booming voice telling me where to go? Like, I'm impatiently waiting for you, Lord, And it's so funny because it's his timing, right? But we want to control it. So what I did was I started just taking really messy action, because I didn't know the what. I knew my gifts were motivating and inspiring and public speaking. And I thought it was also just business, because, I've always been successful at business. So what did I do? The complete opposite. I started a blog, blogging about how to style your mantle. And the funny thing was, the reason I did that is I'm sick of business. I was so burnt out. Even though it was a gift that I had, I didn't know yet how to use it right. And I was afraid of falling back into who I was before. So I'm I'll talk about styling your mantle and how to clean your closet and weird things that are not who I am. Because you think I should do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
That's how I should make money. And I was still focused on money because I was panicking. There's no money left. And money equals stability, and money equals comfort, and all, and everything's, what are we going to do? And all the panic. And I was trying to work through that, but I wasn't there yet. Yeah. I didn't really trust that God would take care of everything yet. So started this blog, and it was great because it taught me copyright. It was great. I could nurse while I'm typing with one hand, right? But then a couple months into it, I'm this doesn't feel right. I don't have any original content because I don't know anything about this stuff. And also, I hate writing. I'm a video person. So I shifted into doing a YouTube channel. And I'm like, I'll talk about business because I was successful in business. I can teach people. I grew a multi-six-figure business on Facebook. Like I can teach other people to do that. So I go on Facebook, I go on YouTube, start doing the videos. Well, I've got the full makeup on. I've got the background, right? And I'm welcome to my YouTube channel. And then my kid would run in and throw a diaper at my head. And again, I'm like, this just isn't me. But I had to keep trying, trial and error, right? And then ultimately, I was like, and the same people would follow me, which is the great part. Like the same couple hundred people, they kept, Steph was talking about a mantle yesterday and today she's teaching Instagram. We don't care. And so finally, like I had this realization about 2 years ago. And I'm like, you guys, why are you following me? What's the thing? And they're like, we're not following you for necessarily what you're teaching us, which is great, but we're following you because of who you are. Like your hot mess mom life, in your Instagram stories, you're showing up and laughing with your kids and you're just this authentic weirdo, but you're also really gifted at business. And like, we're here for it. I'm like, they don't really care like what I'm teaching. They just want to see more of me. And that was the aha moment to like shed all the fake stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was so filtered and I was afraid to talk about Christianity and business because I was afraid that it would be polarizing. But that was the moment that I'm like, okay, I had that Holy Spirit moment, right? Like from head to toe, where you're like, I hear you. And that was it. It clicked. It was like, I'm going to talk about Christianity and business because all this provision comes from God. All of the miracles in your business and in your life come from him. And when you are in alignment with what he's calling you to do on this earth, you actually do experience a piece of heaven on earth. And I'm seeing it in my own life and I need to talk about it. So I started the podcast and everything exploded. I got rid of the fancy Instagram filter. I just started to be me. I started to talk unfiltered like I would talk to my best friend. And that's when I knew, like, miracles started flowing in financially. The right mentors came in, like anything I needed to further this call because it came from him, not from me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that evolution happened.
Yeah. I love that. So you really feel like, now you are walking in what God is calling you to do, right?
Today. And we'll see what it is tomorrow, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, and I think that's something we've talked about on the podcast is for most of us, that one thing is not a one thing. It's like you said at the beginning, it's a journey and God takes you from place to place based on what he wants for you right then. But what do you say to the woman who is kind of in that place of feeling stuck, not sure what she should be doing with her life, but she's seeking God, she's wanting to do something with her gifts and skills? Like, what are some of the things that you think would help her figure that out? Okay.
So the first thing I want to preface this with is that you're never going to have absolute clarity. I never,
yes.
I did hear like pure divine intervention. It was in a dream, start a podcast. It was like super clear. But before that, I never heard there was never pure clarity. And so you're first never going to know for sure. But the way that you start to get clarity is by doing something you think is in the wheelhouse of what you're called to do. Okay. And that is going to start, 99% of you, it's going to start as like a hobby or as something that you do on the side. Like, I am not going to ever tell you, go quit what brings you money and stability, because you need money to live. Okay.
Yeah.
To further, to pay your bills, you need roof over your head, you need to eat. So don't be like, well, Steph said, go pursue my calling to like go swimming in the ocean every day. No. Like, keep the job, but start exploring the passion. Okay. And it's the stuff that you would do without getting paid for it. It's the thing you will talk about that gets you fired up. Like, what is the thing that you almost could like get super passionate about without realizing, oh my gosh, like I'm actually on a soapbox passionate about this thing, and that will give you some insight into it. And it's also, what is the thing you love regardless of how you would make money from it? So those are the first two things you can look internally. The other thing you want to do is start exploring externally, because a lot of times it's hard to see self.
Yeah.
We see ourselves in this weird way, and the things that are natural for us, we don't recognize it as a gift because it's natural. And someone else is looking at you going, how does she do that thing so easily? And you're like, what do you mean? Like, What do you mean? How do I do that? You just do it.
Yeah.
So it's take like maybe the 3 to 5 people you're closest to and ask them, like, do you see any gifts in me? Like, what do you think I'm great at? Is there anything that you look at me and you say, how does she do that thing? Or, wow, she's so good at blank. And I bet you those people, without thinking for more than 30 seconds, have an answer for you. So then what I have you do from there is take all of that information and journal about it and pray over it. So you're going to hear, okay, here's what I discovered about myself. Here's what I get passionate about. Write those things down. Here's what these 3 or 5 people said about me. Write those things down and then pray over it and wait and sit on it. I have this thing where I just take action without thinking. And I've had to learn the hard way that sometimes you just need maybe a weekend of like detox social media, maybe even do a fast while you pray and really sit with something for a moment and ask for direction or ask for, is this right for me now? Like, what do you want from me, God? Like, show me how to take action on this. And almost every time I get clarity. Instead of, oh, Stephanie's going to act again. And then I'm going to go, whoops, that wasn't right. Not doing the blog again about the mantle, right? He wouldn't have said, do that. Definitely not. So that's what will help you get clarity. And then the next piece is you have to do something with it. So yes, I said sit and pray on it and ask God, but sometimes, actually all the time, it's his timing and not yours. So you have to say, well, okay, today I wrote all these things down. Let's say, you said you're so excited about health or wellness, like that's what you love. And you wake up and you really get excited about it. You're constantly talking about how going gluten-free has transformed your life or whatever. Your friends come to you and ask you for meal planning ideas. And everyone's like, well, you're so gifted at like food. I mean, you have this great way of teaching people how to make nutrition work for them. And you're like, wow, I do have these gifts. And you start writing about it and you start praying over it and you're journaling and then nothing comes through. You're like, what can I do with this? Just do something with it. And that's where maybe you just start writing Facebook posts about it. Maybe, you could start a YouTube channel or you could start a podcast, and it doesn't have to make you money. It has to bring you joy. And as you chase the thing you're most excited about, all of a sudden doors will start to open. And I've seen, provision and miracles flow in to further the work that I was called to do when I didn't see how that was going to make me money from day one. Right. But then the money just started to flow in, reconfirming, oh, you're in the right place. You're in the right space. Here's a new opportunity. Here's a coach. Here's this thing. And I want you to keep doing more. But it wasn't clear day one. And I wouldn't have known unless I actually took the step.
Yeah. Yeah. So something that we are talking about on the podcast lately is stepping out of your comfort zone. And that's really kind of what you're saying is you can do all this reflection and all this internal work and really, trusting God and all of that, but nothing will actually happen until you step out and take that step of faith, right? So any thoughts on just encouraging the woman who maybe is afraid to step out of her comfort zone, out of what has been the safety and the stability of what she already knows, into something totally different?
I think you have to remember that if you have that tug on your heart or that feeling that you need to do a thing, but you're not sure how, to remember that God already has the plan. He already has the solutions. He already has the clients. He already has the customers. He already has everything for you to go and do the thing that he wants you to do, right? That's the promise. And you being afraid is almost like you saying that you don't trust his promise. And if you put it into that perspective, how can you not take action? Like, it's your responsibility to go, you know what? I do trust. I fully trust that this is going to work out. Like, for example, I was sitting there, we had no money left, right? Like, I'm talking a couple $100 in all the accounts. And I had this lease through the network marketing company, and the car was $760 a month. I'm like, how am I going to, and to get out of the lease would have been $5,000 and just all the things. And I get a phone call and I'm like, okay, I don't know how money's coming, but God has called me to talk about, this thing. And so I'm just trusting God. And in the back of my mind, I'm panicking. Should I start an Amazon merch t-shirt store to make money? Should I go back to corporate? Like, your mind goes, I don't really trust God, right? me. I'm the one responsible for the provision of my life. But what happened was my mom gave me a call and was like, hey, we came into this van. It was like super cheap. Do you want to use it for a year while you get out of that lease? And I had a free vehicle to use. I then get a phone call 2 weeks later. Hey, Steph, do you do any social media consulting? This is random, but like, would you mind doing this for us? And all of the financial provision was there for me to further his work. I didn't even have to worry about the money side of things, but I never knew the how. I never knew that was coming. But now I know if I just trust, he has everything taken care of for me. Now I can act without fear. And it doesn't mean that it's not uncomfortable to try something new. Of course it's uncomfortable, but that's the flesh. That's the devil wanting you to hide from the call. That is opposition. And that is your own mind telling you to stay safe when God is calling you to be afraid. He wants you to go and be courageous because it's proof that you trust him. So maybe that perspective will help you guys today. I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So you have this business now, and I would love to know if there are any leadership lessons that you've learned in this past, how long has it been since you like started the podcast and you've really been doing this business?
Probably a year and a half since I had like that true clarity moment.
Right. Yeah. So what are the leadership lessons you've learned in this time frame since you started that?
So the leadership lessons that I've learned is that everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses, right? And not everybody is like you, and not everyone does things the way that you do things. And so, now I have some contractors on my team that help me, a podcast producer and like things of that nature. And I am like a bulldog. Like I can go and just get something done. And it was very hard for me to relinquish control in my business. But what I learned was if I can just trust that they can get these things done and like give people grace and not be a crazy human, I'm like, well, I don't know, that, oh, wow, all of a sudden I'm freed up for more space and time. I can go do more of what my genius is instead of, editing the show, for example. So it's, training your team well, or the people that you work with, train them well and give them, like I make videos. I'm like, here's how you do the thing. So I give the most training I possibly can up front, and then I have to bless it and release it. And that's very difficult, I think, for a lot of leaders to do, especially if you're in the entrepreneur space or even the corporate space. But that's been really a great lesson for me is people can do it, even if they do it in a different way than you. So that's one thing. And the second thing is I realized just because I run a successful business doesn't mean I need to hide behind the business hat. Okay. Like I have the most incredible relationships with people because I'm just still me. I never said, well, all of a sudden I'm a business owner and there's this hard line between who Stef really is and joking with people and showing up without makeup. Like this is rare. I had Bible study, so I like did my hair and face today. But normally I'll just meet with a client in my gym clothes. Like I just decided I'm just me. And it's funny because the business became more successful when I stopped faking it.
Yeah.
So that might also help those of you that feel like, ugh, I have to be something I'm not because I'm a leader.
Yeah.
Actually, I challenge you to do the opposite and be who you truly are, even when you're a leader, because that creates a ripple of authenticity in the world.
Yeah. So you've mentioned a couple times, like knowing yourself, knowing your personality, as well as the people that you work with. So are there any resources or tools that you have found helpful in kind of digging a little bit deeper and understanding how God has wired you?
This is super interesting that you bring this up. So I love the Enneagram test, and it's a personality test. And then I got a bunch of flack on Instagram yesterday. Well, I got a text from an old friend. She's like, the Enneagram is evil. And I'm like, okay, hold on, sister. Like, just a minute. Okay, just because something may have been created, like the origin wasn't from biblical or like yoga wasn't,
Yes,
blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, you can still use a tool such as the Enneagram or any other personality tool and discern that for you, it's cool. Like, it's not evil. I'm good. I'm not idolizing the Enneagram.
Yeah.
So just do your own homework on that. But I really enjoy and really use the Enneagram often in my business. It teaches you the strengths and weaknesses in your personality type. Like, I'm a 3, which is the achiever. And it was so important for me to recognize that, because if you know your natural inclination is to achieve and do, I mean, God gave me that gift on purpose.
Right.
But the devil wants to use that to his will, right? He wants to use my desire to work and achieve to become the idol. But now, because I'm so clear on my personality style, I am so clear with it. And I'm like, I know that I have to delete social media on the weekends. I know that I don't take clients after 6 p.m. and on the weekends. I know this about myself, so I can use that to further God's, kingdom, and to really hone in on how he wants me to use my gifts. And it also really helps me with my clients, because I work with people that are a 7, and I'll ask them, what are you on the Enneagram? I have a client who's a 7, which means they're just adventurous. They're free-spirited. They want to do the next best thing, which is great because they're exceptional at business and people and like podcasting, but yet they're a little all over the place. So I'm like, sister, rein it in. Let me give you direction. And so it really helps me knowing how I can best teach people. So I love the Enneagram. And right now, that is the tool that I use the most with my clients.
Yeah. I'm with you. I love it as well. So
Yeah.
I found it super helpful. Yeah.
Take that, everyone. Don't DM me any hate mail.
Oh, goodness. All right. So let's talk for a minute just about kind of like everyday life for you. What are some of the habits and routines that help you to be an effective leader?
So it all starts with a morning routine for me. And believe me, okay, a couple of years ago, you would have been like, Stefanie, wake up at 5:45 in the morning and journal and pray and write your gratitude. I've been like, oh, that's a good one. That's a good one, Nancy. Have a nice day. But now, I recognize that if I wasn't starting my day with God, it got all kinds of crazy. I was snapping at the kids. Everyone's waking up late. I'm getting lost in reaction. So instead, I started to wake up a couple of years ago early, and I would have all these journals. I had the gratitude, I had the prayer journal, I had the memories. I would write my favorite memory of the day before. And so I had 3 journals, and every day it made such a difference because I knew what's my intention for the day. I was grounded, I was peaceful, I had this time to myself without anyone else that needed me. And it was just me and God in that moment. It was so refreshing. But I was doing it in 3 journals. And so I had this crazy aha moment. I don't know, it was like 6 months ago. I'm like, I should just create my own journal, And I did. So now I have my own product, which is absolutely crazy. And it's called With God, She Rises. And it's a morning routine, but it has everything in it. So it has your prayer, your gratitude. It has, your business and your personal intention of the day and your favorite memory. So I do that every day, which is so important for me. And then I also use time blocking. This is a practice that I highly encourage any of you, whether you're in business or not, or you have a job or not, whatever, you need this practice. And it's basically looking at your week and saying, what are the buckets that I need to be the best me? And so I need to work out every day. It's like therapy, and I feel good. I'm more energetic. So I time block in the gym every day. I time block in when work is going to be. Like right now, both my kids are in school. This is power time. Like this is time that I can really be focused in my business. And then I time block out the evenings. I'm not working. I'm not working out. I'm just here for it. Like, let's make dinner together. Let's do the Legos. Let's jump on the trampoline, or my husband and I can watch our favorite show or whatever it is. So morning routine and time blocking. And then the third one, and this one y'all need to hear, is boundaries. I'm like gangster at some boundaries. Like, I'm just going to say it. Like and especially as women listening, I feel like we have this natural thing where we want to serve and give, which is great. I feel you on that. but you can't do it at the expense of your own life and your own happiness and having the most, fulfilled life possible. And so I understand, we want to volunteer at the church and volunteer in the kids' classes. And we want to meet with Mary, who's having a hard time, for 3 hours on a Thursday when we're supposed to be going to the gym or doing the thing. And so I kind of created this standard in my life of I'm here for things that I'm called to do, but in the timing that work for me. Right. And so, for example, I had a friend come into town and she's like, hey, I'm going to be in town. And like, can we just do this and this and this? I'm like, actually, like, the week is pretty booked up with stuff, but on Saturday I have nothing booked. Like, can you make that work? And she's like, oh yeah, for sure. And the other thing I do is even with clients, I just let them know, clear communication. Hey, we've got our hour called. Just want to let you know it's a 60-minute session. We're good with that, right? Because if you don't have clear communication about your boundaries from the beginning, it's just easy. It's just easy to not necessarily get taken advantage of, but lose track of all of the other commitments that you wanted to do for you. So don't make excuses for what you really want in your life. I guess that's my message there.
Yeah, so important. I love that. Okay, so if you could give any advice to a younger leader, maybe she is just starting out in her career or in ministry or business, what would you tell her?
Buckle up, sister. I think what I would say is that you really have to learn to love the journey, okay? Because we're always striving. We think like, well, one day it's the day. It all makes sense. I'm 80 today and this was it. This was the moment. No, like the moment is the now. The moment is the journey. The moment is the hard that you're sitting in because you need that testimony to impact someone later. The moment is the win that you had today. The moment is when your kid looked at you and grabbed your face and said, Mama, you're beautiful. Like that's the moment. The journey is the taste of heaven on earth. So you have to start there and start to love every second of your day and every second of your being. And even when you're being tested and it's hard or you're exhausted or you don't know, why is that employee acting this way? Or like, why did that person come back at me with that hard feedback today? It's on purpose. And just thank you. Thanks for that. I'm ready for it. Like surprise me with what's next. And it's not easy some days, but remember that, it's all, I believe, on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one of my favorite things about this podcast is just getting to hear so many women's stories. And it's so true that, there's never a point where we feel like, okay, I've arrived. Now I'm here. And this is the thing that I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
And I think for so long, like I especially, and so those of you thinking that, like I thought that, I'm like, but there's a final destination. If I could just do blank, if I could just lose this much weight, if I could go there, if my kid would do this, if my spouse would do this for me. Yeah. But it's none of that. It's the right now. It's the conversation with you. It's the, oh my gosh, I get to have this coffee and go to Bible study today. Like what a blessing. I guess it's looking at life through a view of blessings and miracles instead of looking at life through lack and through when. So, and it's the journey. The journey is beautiful, even the hard stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. I always like to ask, what is something you've been learning recently? Because we believe leaders are learners and that God is always teaching us something. So it could be something that you've learned via a book or a podcast or something you've read, or just a lesson that God is teaching you.
I actually have been really digging into money as a Christian. And I had a lot of people from my community asking me, they're like, can you talk about money mindset? I have so much guilt around money. And I've never really had that problem, but the more that it was coming to me, I started to see, again, discernment, right? There is obviously this struggle for Christian women that are in my community and being successful, quote unquote. So I really started to dig into scripture when it came to money. And I really came away with one core message. And I think those of you listening in leadership, you're going to deal with money. And so I'll share that with you. Are you looking at money as a way to further God's kingdom? And to do that and to impact and make true change, it takes money, right? If you want to give $1 million to a cause, is that not incredible, right? Or are you saying, I need money for me? I want to have all the things because Joe has all the things. And the more money I have, the more worthy I am. And in that situation, money is actually an idol for you. So you have to say, what is my view towards money and why I need money? What do I want to do here on earth? What is God asking me to do on earth? And what amount of money does that take to create that change? You know, like, for example, for me to do the work that I want to do, it will take millions of dollars. I'm excited about that because I think that I can create a ripple through financial provision that is from God. It's not from self. It's from God, and it's his favor that he will provide to me to go out and do his work with it. So that's what I've been learning about. And maybe that helps some of you that are struggling with, is money good or bad? And I think it really takes, what's the money for and what meaning does that have for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right, Stef, I so appreciate everything you shared and just hearing more about what you're doing and how God is using you. So I know that our women are going to want to connect with you. So what is the best way for them to find out more about you and what you do and your podcast? Share with us how we can connect with you.
Absolutely. My website is the best place. It's stefaniegass.com. All the things over there for those of you that are, Christian women in business, entrepreneurs, mompreneurs, lots of messy mom life for you to laugh at. I love Instagram's where I hang out. So come say hi on Instagram. My handle's @Stefanie Gass. And then my podcast is called The Mompreneur Mastermind Show. Anywhere you listen to podcasts. And basically it's for the Christian mompreneur. My goal is to empower and transform you to have success in your business and your life. We have interviews over there. And again, lots of hot mess mom stuff. I'll have you laughing, if not with me, at me for sure. So
that's awesome. And we will make sure all the links for all those places are in the show notes, along with the link for your journal so that we can go out and grab that. So again, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today, Stefanie.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on the Christian Women Leadership Podcast. Do you want to become a more confident leader? Then make sure to grab the Confident Leader Manifesto. This is a resource that Holly and I developed just for you, and I share all about it in episode 6, Leading with Confidence. You can get the manifesto for yourself at estherlittlefield.com/confident. And that's confident with a T. Now, don't forget, your leadership matters, and it's time for you to embrace your gifts and lead with confidence.